We had you on the show after the Super Bowl, and you spoke about the game. Was there anybody that you felt like you left on stage, or you was good with it?
No, I was good. It was perfect.
Dr. Dre, one of the most influential figures in hip-hop, has helped build empires and made legends out of many artists. But his success came at a high cost: his relationships. Some of these artists were once close allies, but today they stand as bitter enemies. What led to these feuds, and how did they shape Dre's career? Just when you think you know everything, you'll realize there's a whole lot more that's been kept in the shadows. These are the 7 artists Dr. Dre hated the most. Number 1 is Suge Knight. Dr. Dre's fallout with Suge Knight is one of the most infamous beefs in hip-hop history. It all started in 1996, when Dre left Death Row Records, the label they had built together. Dre's decision was simple. He wanted to leave the violent, toxic environment that Suge had created and find his own way. The Lady of Rage, an ex-Death Row's scenee, also hinted on why Dre left.
If you start something, if you're a part of starting something and then a different element comes in and alters that, and you don't see yourself fitting into that program, and you don't like the way things are going anymore, you leave. So I'm thinking he didn't like the way things were anymore.
But Suge didn't see it that way. To him, Dre's departure was a complete betrayal. They had built Death Row from the ground up, and now Dre was walking away from it all. Suge felt personally and professionally betrayed by Dre's decision. But here's where it gets even more shocking. After Dre's departure, Suge lashed out in several ways, including physical confrontations. One of the most notorious incidents was a violent altercation involving Dre's security, which escalated to the point where Dre's team had to step in to protect him. But the tension didn't stop there. Suge's anger towards Dre turned into something more dangerous. Rumors and reports suggest that Suge's people made threats on Dre's life and tried to intimidate him into coming back. But the feud didn't end there. Suge's resentment reached a tragic climax when, after a failed peace meeting, his associate, Terry Carter, was during a confrontation with Suge. This gruesome event was a grim reminder of how deep the bad blood ran between Dre and Suge. Suge's violent outbursts and Dre's exit from Death Row would define their relationship for years to come. Next, we have number 2, Eazy-E. The relationship between Dre and Eazy-E began as one of the most iconic partnerships in hip-hop history. Together, they were the core of NWA, creating some of the most groundbreaking music in the genre. But things took a turn when Dre became increasingly frustrated with Eazy and the management at Ruthless Records. Dre felt that he was being underpaid for his contributions and made a decision to leave. He asked Eazy-E to join him, and Eazy chose to stay with Jerry Heller, which Dre saw as betrayal.
I said, listen, man, all of this going back and forth, man. Either Jerry goes or I go. And he looked me in my face and said, I can't get rid of Jerry. That was the end of me and Eazy-E's relationship.
Dre's frustration reached its peak when he left Ruthless to form Death Row with Suge Knight. To Eazy, this was more than just a business decision. It was a betrayal from someone he considered a brother. Their once unbreakable bond was shattered. Dre's release of Dre Day was a brutal shot at Eazy, mocking his business decisions and his credibility as a gangsta.
Mr. Bus, where the you at? Can't scrap a lick, so I know you got your on hard. From your road dogs, the hood you threw up with, cause you grew up with.
Eazy-E didn't sit idly by. He fired back with Real Mother G's, a scathing diss track that tore into Dre's gangsta persona, calling him a studio gangster. The drama escalated in the media, with fans and insiders watching every move and every new track. The feud wasn't just professional, it was deeply personal, and despite Dre's public remorse later in life, the damage had been done. Eazy-E's tragic death from AIDS in 1995 marked the end of their feud, but the scars from their fallout would last forever. Let's talk about number 3, 50 Cent. The beef between Dre and 50 Cent was complicated, especially considering how close they were early on. 50 Cent, fresh off his rise to fame after Dre signed him to Aftermath, became one of the most successful artists on the label. But things soured when 50 was in G-Unit and had a problem with the game. He felt Dre wasn't fully supporting him during a critical period. However, he made it clear that Dre seems to be out of it because the game was from the West Coast.
You still got a relationship with Dre?
Not like, I don't call to talk to him anymore. Like, I think that relationship was business.
Interscope was the West Coast when it was East Coast, West Coast going on. And I never really saw them respond properly to Game's disrespect when it happened, because they had some sort of allegiance to the West or something else, and I didn't understand it.
But 50 Cent didn't take kindly to this. He felt that Dre, who had helped shape his career, wasn't standing by him when it mattered. He released diss tracks targeting Dre, questioning his loyalty and his handling of business decisions. The tension between the two became a hot topic, with fans debating who was in the wrong. However, in 2020, there was a surprising turn. 50 Cent posted a message expressing well wishes for Dre during his hospitalization. Fans were caught off guard by the gesture, as it marked the first sign of reconciliation after years of conflict. But the question still lingers. Did the feud truly end, or is it just another chapter in their complicated relationship? Number 4 is Tupac. Tupac and Dre's relationship was always a rocky one. While they had a few successful collaborations, particularly on California Love, Tupac grew increasingly frustrated with Dre's shift toward mainstream success. Tupac, known for his raw and unapologetic approach to music, felt that Dre was turning his back on the gritty, street-driven ethos that had made them both legends in the first place. But that wasn't all. Tupac also challenged Dre on his work ethic. Pac was working relentlessly, recording multiple tracks a day, while Dre, despite being one of the biggest names in the game, was only releasing one song a year. Tupac criticized Dre for his lazy approach to the craft, accusing him of being out of touch with the hunger and urgency that fueled the culture of hip-hop. For Pac, the idea of releasing music so sporadically felt like a betrayal to the fans and artists who worked tirelessly to keep the culture alive.
With Dre,
he is a dope producer, but he ain't working years. And I got tired. I didn't think we needed that. I think we didn't need that. And he was owning the company too, and he's chilling. He owning the company. He's chilling this out, sucking dick, eating pussy. I'm out here in the street, you know what I mean? Whooping niggas' ass, rock wars, shit, putting it down, dropping the album, doing my shit, and this nigga's taking 3 years.
Tupac made it clear that Dre's shift in focus was a betrayal of the principles Tupac stood for. In his diss track, Hit Them Up, Tupac went after Dre, calling him a and questioning his loyalty to Death Row. Tupac's criticism wasn't limited to Dre's music. It was about what Dre represented now versus what he had once stood for. Dre's public silence only added fuel to the fire, and the relationship between the two soured beyond repair. Dre later expressed regret over their issues, but Tupac's anger was clear and unrelenting. When Tupac was tragically killed in 1996, the beef between him and Dre remained unresolved, leaving fans wondering what could have been. Which brings us to number 5, Ja Rule. Ja Rule's beef with Dr. Dre was born out of his bitter rivalry with 50 Cent. Ja Rule believed Dre's alliance with 50 showed where his loyalty stood, leaving him feeling abandoned when he needed support the most. Ja Rule's career, once dominant, became overshadowed by the constant back and forth with 50. In his diss track, Loose Change, Ja Rule called out Dre for working with 50 Cent and Eminem, accusing them of undermining his credibility. The tension was palpable as Ja Rule expressed his frustration with Dre's silence during the feud, feeling betrayed by someone he once trusted. Eventually, Ja Rule and Dre reconciled, though the truce came too late. Ja Rule admitted Dre had played a key role in his early success, but the damage to his career was already done, and he struggled to regain his former popularity. Despite the reconciliation, the feud left lasting scars on Ja Rule's career. His public battles with 50 Cent and Dre only fueled the narrative that he was no longer relevant in hip-hop, and the music world moved on without him. The damage from those years of animosity and public feuding was undeniable. Next, we have number 6, The Game. The Game's beef with Dre was one of the most personal on this list. When The Game was signed to Aftermath and became one of Dre's biggest stars, their relationship seemed unbreakable. But when The Game was ousted from G-Unit, he felt that Dre didn't stand by him. Dre, who had mentored The Game, seemed to distance himself when tensions between The Game and 50 Cent reached a breaking point. The Game expressed his frustrations in a series of diss tracks, including 300 Bars and Running, where he took shots at Dre for not supporting him. It didn't stop there. He went on to take shots at Eminem because he felt Dre couldn't out-rap him.
Even on my last album with, throwing shots at Eminem and beef with Eminem, it was just me being upset with Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre can't out-rap me, so I just went at him.
The Game felt that Dre had abandoned him at a time when he needed the most guidance and loyalty. The fallout was painful for both sides, as The Game struggled to understand why Dre hadn't fought for him. The emotional toll of the fallout weighed on him. as he came to feel that Dre's silence during a time of personal crisis was an ultimate betrayal. However, over time, the game softened his stance. In interviews, he acknowledged Dre as a mentor and even apologized for his harsh words. Still, the damage from their feud remained a part of their history, leaving both men to navigate the complexities of their relationship while trying to move forward. Finally, we have number 7, Ice Cube. Ice Cube and Dr. Dre's relationship, once a cornerstone of West Coast hip-hop, became one of the most complicated feuds in music history. The two started together in NWA, with Cube contributing immensely to the group's success as both a member and lyricist. However, things took a turn when Cube left NWA in 1989 due to financial disputes and what he felt was a lack of respect from the group's manager, Jerry Heller, and by extension, Dr. Ice Cube, had issues with how Ruthless Records, the label co-founded by Eazy-E and Jerry Heller, was handling his share of earnings. When Dre and the other NWA members sided with Heller, Cube felt betrayed by the very people he considered his brothers. His departure was not just a business move, it was a deeply personal betrayal, and he took aim at Dre in his early solo work. His 1990 diss track No Vaseline is one of the most brutal takedowns in hip-hop history, targeting Dre, Eazy-E, and Heller. Years later, Cube and Dre reconciled. Cube admitted in interviews that he had always respected Dre's musical talent and his role in NWA's success. Despite the personal conflict, the two remained professional, and Dre even appeared on Cube's track, Natural Born Killers, in 1999, signaling that the past had been put behind them. Their reconciliation reflected not just the business side of hip-hop, but the personal growth they had each undergone. And just when you think this story couldn't get any more shocking, think about this. These feuds weren't just about music. They were about power, ego, and the complex web of loyalty and betrayal that exists behind the scenes in the music industry. The drama, the betrayals, the reconciliations. Each of these relationships shaped not only Dre's career, but the entire music industry. What do you think about these feuds? Were these artists justified in their actions? Drop your thoughts below. This is a conversation that's far from over,